I don't have any puns about daiquiris. Sorry. Hello and welcome to Intoxicated Masculinity. If it's Wednesday, we have a cocktail video coming at you. Today we are doing a cocktail that is very near and dear to my heart. It's one of the first cocktails I sort of really got into, and I think it's very interesting, it's very important, and it is of course the daiquiri. The history of the daiquiri, it goes back to, like a lot of these classic cocktails, we don't have specifics. We do know probably the late 1800s, early 1900s, invented in Cuba, possibly by an American who ran a mine there. But again, with these cocktails, when you're talking about lime, rum, sugar, I mean, it's very close to a lot of other cocktails. You know, you get your caipirinha, your tea punch, your mojito's not that far off from this drink. We do know it comes to the United States in the very, very early part of the 20th century. It was brought by a U.S. naval officer who brought it first to Washington, D.C., and then kind of spread all across the country. It's a very basic sour cocktail. But I think that when you have sort of basic cocktails like that, it really lets you play around. So normally that's where I say, now that we know a little bit about the cocktail, let's make it. But we're going to have a first stop along the way before we get there. Before we get started on this cocktail, we are going to talk about a tale of two juices. So what I have on my left is what I would normally use when making a daiquiri, and this is just fresh squeezed lime juice. This is one lime. It was a fairly juicy lime, I think, and this is the juice from one lime. So this is also the juice of one lime. Now, how does that work? First of all, let's talk about something called oleosaccharum. So oleosaccharum is, you basically take the peels of a citrus fruit, you put sugar in with those peels, and you allow that to sit for a couple of hours. And essentially what is happening is the sugar is drawing out the oils that are inside the peel, and you can then make a syrup out of that. So you can do a lot of citrusy simple syrups with that. So this is taking that same technique, except instead of using sugars to pull that out, you're using acids. So in this case, we're using citric acid and malic acid. Both of your citric acid is going to be available basically at any grocery store. The malic acid you might have to send out for it. I think I bought mine on Amazon. So you peel one lime, and you have your equal parts acids and peels by weight. You then pour those into a blender along with your peels, your saccharum, your oils, a certain number of water. I used a 16 times, so there's 16 times weight of peels and acids to water, and then you also add in the juice from the lime that you took the peels off of. Obviously, it provides a significantly larger amount of lime juice than you would from juicing a single lime. Now, I have tried this once. I actually recorded a video about the whiskey sour. We're going to do another one later on. I wasn't really satisfied with how that turned out because I was trying out a couple of different variables. In this case, the only variable between the two drinks that I'm going to make today is one we're using our fresh squeezed lime juice, and the other we're using our super lime juice. So, now that we know a little bit about the cocktail and a little bit about our current experiment, let's go ahead and toss it in a shaker and see what we think. So as with a lot of the very kind of simple classic cocktails, the proportions are somewhat disagreed upon. There are some people and a lot of recipe books that will tell you to do this as an equal parts juice to simple syrup ratio and do 3/4 of an ounce of both. There are some people, there's a person in my life who comes over for drinks sometimes, and I know they like them to be a little bit on the sweeter side. So in his case, I make it to be about 1 ounce of simple syrup to about 1/2 ounce to 3/4 of an ounce of lime juice. I like a sour cocktail, so we're going to go for an ounce of our lime juice and 1/2 ounce of simple syrup. And again, the only difference, like I said, is going to be in the cocktail on our left. On my left, your right, is going to have fresh squeezed lime juice, and on our right is going to be our super juice. So, starting off, we're going to come over here to our one on my left. Oop, didn't have quite enough in there. I'm running out of containers around the house for putting syrups and things like that in. So 1 ounce of our fresh squeezed lime juice into the shaker, and over on this side are doing 1 ounce of our super juice into the shaker. And again, everything else look at these is going to be exactly the same. So we're going to do 1/2 ounce of our simple syrup. Both into the shaker. Now in this one, so playing around with your rums in this cocktail is really fun because this is featuring the rum. The rum is the primary in this. By the way, there is also something called a Daiquiri 2, which, to be honest, I wasn't that interested in it. It uses a little bit of orange juice and a little bit of orange liqueur. We might tackle that at some point, but it's certainly not on my radar. But just know that if somebody asks for a Daiquiri 2, it will be a little bit different from this. But that being said, when we're playing with our rum, since the rum is so primary here, you really can play around. Honestly, a lot of times if I'm making this, I will just use this Dorley's white rum. What I thought I would do this time, because I really like my El Dorado, is we're going to go half and half. So we're going to take 1 ounce of our Dorley's, and this is one that I like a lot. Here, I don't know if it's everywhere in the States. Everywhere I've been in the States, this is only available at Total Wine, and I'm definitely not doing a commercial for Total Wine. But this is a real nice Barbados rum. It's very affordable. It's got a nice flavor profile, but it's also there's not a lot of sugar added to it. It's a fairly simple flavor profile. Whereas our El Dorado very much is a lot more bold. They do their fermentation in Guyana is significantly different than it is in other places. So they end up coming out with a rum that has a very unique flavor profile. Now remember on this, again, like I said, you can play with all of these ingredients. If you wanted to go with a dark rum and like a Demerara simple syrup, that's perfectly fine. With nice simple cocktails like this, your old fashions, your daiquiris, things like martinis, it really gives you an opportunity to play around. If you're talking about more complex cocktails, you have a little bit less wiggle room because the cocktails are sort of more strategically designed to just be one kind of thing. But with these, you can kind of go wild. But we need to get ourselves some ice, shake these up, and decide if our super juice is really that super. Okay, so we've got our ice. Toss our drink in here, give it a little pound, and shake them up. Crack our tins open here. We're just going to do these into some chilled coupe glasses. So let's do our natural fresh squeezed lime juice first. All right. Second, our super daiquiri. I would have thought I would have given it a little cape. All right, and we have our tale of two daiquiris. I think I'm going to try the traditional first. I really like what the El Dorado is doing in there. Again, I can't really say the difference yet because I haven't tasted this one, but so the Dorley's is kind of a more neutral. Neutral kind of sounds bad, and it's not bad. It's a very kind of traditional, kind of a light rum, and so that's bringing that kind of just is sort of lightly rummy kind of flavor profile. The El Dorado is bringing kind of a not. I've always struggled with describing the exact flavor of El Dorado because it is not like a Jamaican funky rum, but it does have kind of an interesting funk of its own. It's kind of an earthier flavor. Again, if you look up about how they do their fermentation down there, it's very different. They use these things called dunder pits. So it brings kind of an earthiness to the cocktail, but you know, it's still a rum. You got your citrus. It's very, very light. It's a very poolside kind of cocktail. And then they bring that El Dorado. It doesn't make it like a super earthy cocktail, but it does add a little bit of complexity to it. I think it has a little bit more going on. So let's try our super daiquiri. It's interesting. I'm going to try this one again first before I say anything. Okay, so this one is a little better. The lime juice just gives it's a more natural taste. It's a little sunnier. It tastes fresher. This is not bad by any means. Honestly, if I was not tasting these side by side, I probably wouldn't notice the difference between switching over to the super juice. But it is definitely just a little bit less sunny, I guess. It is less sharp. It's a little bit less tart. I might experiment with this. It's possible that the 16 times that the other video suggests, maybe that's a little bit too much. Maybe I'll cut that back to maybe 10 times. And that ratio, by the way, is your peels and acids to your water. So maybe there's a little bit too much water in that. Again, not bad at all. But definitely side by side, it is very clear to me that in this case, the fresh squeezed lime juice does definitely add. So that's interesting. We might revisit this with a different cocktail and try to change our ratios just a little bit. Again, and by the way, I should say the super juice, because of the way that it's made, is more shelf stable and will last longer. Because your regular lime juice is going to start to get tart and start to go bad after a relatively short period of time. So it's going to be a little bit of a sort of a trade-off of this is going to be a little sharper and a little more fresh, but this is going to last a little longer. So I think for now we're going to let this one sit, and we're going to say that regular fresh squeezed lime juice won, which is probably not a shock to most people. But I do think that possibly reducing the level of dilution here could bring that up to speed, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. And on that bombshell, I want to thank everybody for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and have a good drink, and have a good day.